on a farm who didn't read or write going to feeling firmly that she was the person who would help the deposed king be again resurrected as the King of France, the rightful King of France, the Dauphin. She's 15 years old, and she's traveling by herself, and she ends up convincing the king that she is the right person. And all along, and for many, many years, Joan has had visions. So she has had visitations with many saints who have told her of her mission. And she follows them. I mean, she follows the voices, she follows the direction, and supposedly when she did meet the rightful King of France, who was, hiding out, she was able to share with him some secrets that no one would know. And that's what really convinced him to make her the leader. So imagine this teenager, she's leading like thousands and thousands, over 20,000 men to battle against the British. This is against the English, I should say.
Amazing.
This is what she did. She is leading the battle. And not just one, many battles. And she's winning. And that's extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
It's extraordinary. I mean, for our time, it would be extraordinary.
Yeah. Even for someone 3 times her age.
Yes. And, sadly, well, for him, he does get his rightful crown, and Joan becomes quite popular, and people adore her, as you can imagine. And she's taken prisoner by the English and subjected to a trial. And I include, actually, transcripts from the trial, which was my inspiration, so, readers could hear her voice.
Yeah.
But she is steadfast during her trial. She doesn't back down, and tragically, the king, who's now the king, he does nothing to help her. I mean, she was chained for over a year and a half during her trial in chains, leg chains, 24 hours. And he does nothing to lift a finger because, he does not like her popularity. And it's very convenient if they could get rid of her in a nice way and he wouldn't have to take any blame. And she goes to trial, and she faces her court of men who are really not interested in hearing what she has to say, and she does not back down. This teenage girl does not back down.
Cliffhanger. We're going to do a little cliffhanger here and go to a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, you can finish Joan's story, and we'll dive in to your book a bit more as well. You're listening to Relationships 2.0, and we'll be back in a few short minutes. Stay tuned. Do you tend to overreact and let your emotions rule your interactions with others? Do you become defensive or find it difficult to see things from another's point of view? Hi, I'm Michelle Skeen. You're not alone. Despite the fact that we all have to deal with people in our daily lives, many of us have difficulties with interpersonal relationships. My suggestion? Pick up a copy of the Interpersonal Problems Workbook. This book combines powerful evidence-based techniques for strengthening relationships in all areas of your life, whether it's at home or work, with a significant other, a parent, or your child. To find out more about the Interpersonal Problems Workbook, go to my website, www.michelleskeen.com. Again, www.michelleskeen.com. Pick up a copy and improve your relationships.
Hey, what's up? Thinking about you. XOXOXO. Want to snuggle. ... JK. Hit me back. You getting these texts? ? We should hang later. I miss you. Holla at ya, boy. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you at home? Where are you? What are you doing? OMG. You are making me mad. Are you with your ex? You better text me back. I'm waiting outside your house.
Relentless, aggressive texting is like sending an angry robot to deliver your message. When does the robot become dangerous? Let us know at that'snotcool.com.
That'snotcool.com.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
America's wounded warriors are coming home. After serving on foreign shores, these brave men and women are returning to their families and communities. Many have wounds you can see, and many have wounds you can't see, like post-traumatic stress disorder. Now that these warriors are back home, they are ready to enter the civilian workforce. To help, Wounded Warrior Project has developed the Warriors to Work program, a career counseling service that helps warriors translate their military experience to the civilian workplace. These extraordinary men and women bring proven world-class job skills and a unique perspective on teamwork to the job. And to ensure the right warrior finds the right job, Wounded Warrior Project works with employers to find just the right match. When you hire a wounded warrior, you hire an intelligent, talented, and committed new employee. Contact Wounded Warrior Project at findwwp.org. Welcome home the brave.
Welcome back to Relationships 2.0. I'm chatting with Janet Roseman. She's the author of If Joan of Arc Had Cancer. So, Janet, you were giving us the rundown on Joan of Arc. We left off with her being on trial.
Yes, she was on trial. She was chained to her bed for over a year and a half, 24 hours a day, as she was in chains. She was humiliated. Everyone who participated in the trial, their only agenda was to get rid of her and to make her wrong and to make her admit that her visions were, she made up her visions, and to really, they wanted to destroy her. They wanted to destroy her integrity, and they wanted to destroy her as a person, which they actually succeeded in doing. And she was condemned to die by fire, and she was burned at the stake.
That's awful. You say in the book that she had something like 750 visions. Yes,
during her whole life. It started actually when she was a child. So before, well, one could say when she left, she was still a child because she was only 14 years old. But
yeah,
she started having visions, and she was a very, she came from humble means. She lived on a farm. She took care of the animals. She sewed. She read the Bible, or, she listened to the Bible out loud that her mom would read her. So this wasn't someone that one would think would be selected, to save France. And she had visions for a very long time and kept it to herself. I mean, It was a very private experience for her. And even during her trial, she continued to have visions in her jail cell. And she was told what would happen to her. She was told she was injured actually during one of the battles, and she was told that she would be injured, but that she would survive. And so everything was orchestrated, very in detail. So she had all of the information, going in, and of course we'll never, we know what the trial transcripts say, but we'll never truly know what her experience was like, because we can only wonder what wasn't put in.
One of the things that you talk about in the book that really struck me, there's such a great emphasis on courage, and then you bring up the meaning of vulnerability. And I think that still people associate vulnerability with weakness so often. And I'd love for you to talk about how people can maybe rethink their perception of vulnerability and their relationship with it?
Vulnerability, just like fear, has a really bad rap. It's something that we look at as, she's so vulnerable. That's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Well, it isn't a bad thing. And even I would suggest, when you feel fear, that's not a bad thing either. It's informing you.
Right.
It's an emotion that's informing you to pay attention. And the same thing with when we're feeling vulnerable. I mean, really taking a look at what is it that's making us feel so vulnerable. Is it a situation? Is it something that someone said to us? Cancer, by its very definition, of course, will make us feel vulnerable because we're not, we're not who we were before. Once you have that diagnosis, you will change.
Yeah.
You will become another person, but that doesn't have to be a person who's less than. Right. That can be a person who's full of and empowered. Mm-hmm. So it's really about perception, and I think it's a cultural thing. I think we've been taught, the brave person doesn't complain and doesn't share vulnerability, but I would suggest it's the courageous person who trusts themselves enough and also would share with someone that they trust that they're feeling vulnerable.
Yeah.
And not everybody can sit with that.
Yeah. Back to that whole idea earlier that, strength is associated with silence. Like if someone's really strong, it means they're not talking about what's wrong with them, or they're not complaining. They're suffering in silence, and that's a sign of strength, when that isn't the only way that strength manifests itself.
Yeah, actually, I would say that that's not strength. That's just, really taking all of those emotions and internalizing them. Because they have to go somewhere, and I think it's extremely harmful. And, not to be able to say your truth, and obviously in the right situation and to the right people, is harmful, because then what are you going to do with all of those feelings of fear and anxiety and emotion and rage and anger, and all of those emotions are appropriate.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to really take stock of where you are, because that will change.
Well, you talk about giving yourself permission to experience the full spectrum of emotions, negative and positive, and all of that. And that is important to really be in touch with yourself. And, you go on to talk about, we could talk about intuition as well as meditation, and how those can be helpful in this on this journey as well. So talk about those and why you think that they're important.
Well, I included, in the first half of the book, there's meditations after every chapter. And each chapter is an attribute that I found that Joan exhibited, or I was inspired to include, such as valor or courage or surrendering, right, or prayer, or, a number of things. But I wanted to offer the reader, I sort of envisioned it as a guidebook for a month, that they could read the transcript from Joan's trial, look at the attribute, and then do a meditation.
Yeah.
There's also a direct intuitive message from Joan, and really all of the meditations are directly linked with the attribute. And the second part of the book is much more self-reflective, and it's arts-based medicine, really, using narrative and visualizations and art, and a number of arts-based therapies, because there's a lot of research to show that arts-based medicine is extremely effective in oncology, and In fact, I just wrote a paper about it because I want to educate more oncologists and those who work in the oncology field about integrating arts-based therapies, because not everybody wants to sit and talk.
Right.
And for some people that can work, and for some people that's a disaster. And to expect everyone to be the same, I think, is really not, it's just not helpful. And art is, whether you're doing a meditation and you're really able to get into your body, you're able to really look at the somatic clues that you're feeling and get out of your head and not talking, but really listening. It gives you an opportunity to really connect with yourself, your true self. And it's imperative. It's absolutely imperative. And the
meditation is just so helpful for that.
Absolutely. And every oncologist across the nation should be encouraging their patients to participate in some form of meditation or something that can help them. Maybe your your meditation is, gardening. That can be a meditation also.
Yeah, like active mindfulness kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So really finding what would be, most helpful for you is very important.
And the idea that you'll be more tuned into yourself and even all of the different emotions that you're experiencing. So often, I think we find that, especially during trying times, people can have a really difficult time identifying emotions, even emotions that, we would view as being fairly simple, basic emotions. But when there's a lot going on and it's confusing and there are lots of emotions, as you discuss in your book, it's important for everyone to be able to really be tuned into them, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, as a therapist, you know how important that is. And if you don't know what you're feeling, then you really can't take the next step unless you identify, not what someone else might have gone through, but what you're feeling in that moment. So okay, if I'm feeling, extremely anxious, I need to really look at that. Where is this anxiety coming from? And to really take stock every day with, what you're going through and what you might need. And really allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to have those feelings and to seek out, good support for that. If you're feeling like you can't handle it on your own, then find a good therapist to work with, get some body work. I mean, there are a lot of resources, and I've actually listed a whole resource guide in the back for people to at least investigate.
No, it's so great, everything you've done. I want to go back to the first part of the first part of the book, because I love that you made this like a day of 30 days, so a month worth of topics. So, you have patience and surrender, things like trust, strength, humor, courage. And I would think that for someone who is going through a difficult time, to have these little chapters that are so packed with really important information is just the perfect amount to digest in a day.
Well, I hope so.
And the way it can build on each other, so they build on each other. So by the time you get to the end of the month, you've really accomplished a lot and you can feel like you've done a lot.
Well, that's my goal. That's really, my goal. I really wanted women to feel empowered. And I know from personal experience, the only way to feel that way is really, you have to go through the dark part too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have
and
to
not
look
be
at,
afraid of that.
yes, and it's not a comfortable place to be. It's a very scary place to be, but it's imperative. You can't shut yourself off to the emotions that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
That isn't, healing is sort of this. It's a whole journey, and the journey is going to change. And I just think looking at the dark as well as the light is the way to go.
Yeah. I've had, we can continue the discussion after this next break, but I've had a number of authors from your publishing company on New World Library who talk about dreams or, after death experiences and that kind of thing, and how they can help people, and I think you're trying to do the same thing, really get in touch with this idea of intuition or this deeper part of ourselves, that we have this kind of capacity that we often don't believe we have, that we just need to tap into it. And, I was thinking as I was reading your book that you always hear people saying, oh yeah, well, he or she has really great intuition, as if only some people have it. And yet, you're talking about giving everyone the information so that they can tap into that. And I'd like to have you talk about that when we come back from the break.
Sure.
You're listening to Relationships 2.0. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Michelle Skeen, psychologist, author, and host of Relationships 2.0. On my radio show, I interview guests who present their unique perspectives and expertise on topics that cover all aspects of relationship. If you want to improve your relationship, and let's face it, we all have room for improvement, tune in to Relationships 2.0 with Dr. Michelle Skeen. If you miss my show or you're interested in listening to past podcasts, you can go to my website, www.michelleskeen.com. Again, www.michelleskeen.com. Tune in and improve your relationships.
When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, both of my daughters were pregnant, and everything I was looking forward to turned into everything I was going to miss. First words, first steps. Today, those babies are 3. I'm with them all the time. I don't know what's next, but I know I'm here today.
A Susan G. Komen grant helped pay for Alanthia's surgery, and today she's caring for her grandchildren. Help save lives. Visit IamSusanGKomen.org. A public service message from Susan G. Komen.
There are kids in this country who didn't have a parent at their baseball games or recitals because their parents were serving in faraway places. But now they're coming home, and Wounded Warrior Project assists them through the Warriors to Work program.
My mom used to be a tank programmer. Now she works with computers. I'm really glad she's home because I can't eat my dad's marshmallow macaroni anymore.
To support the Warriors to Work program, contact Wounded Warrior Project at findwwp.org. Welcome home the brave.
Welcome back to Relationships 2.0. I'm chatting with Janet Roseman. She's the author of If Joan of Arc Had Cancer, Finding Courage, Faith, and Healing from History's Most Inspirational Woman Warrior. Janet, tell everyone how they can find you.
Oh, they can find me if you go to Facebook / If Joan of Arc Had Cancer. I have a Facebook page, so they would be able to find me there. And you can also contact New World Library if people want to get a hold of me. And I'm happy to talk to whomever. I also do trainings with healthcare professionals because I'm really interested in integrating the tenets of the book, so people can then go out and work with the book with their clients.
Yeah. Do you want to say more about how clinicians can use use you and the information in the book to work with clients?
Oh, sure. Well, the book was written primarily for obviously women who had a diagnosis, and then while I was writing it, it occurred to me that it would really be a lovely training program for those who work in oncology, because as I mentioned earlier, often verbal therapy is usually, pretty much the standard. And I think that's great, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I think bringing in the arts-based component and, even using some of the self-reflective exercises that are in the book and bringing that to your therapist to talk about could just be, gems of wisdom and offer another, deep sort of excavation of one's psyche that you can share, with your healthcare provider. And that's how I envisioned it. So I would love it to be used by, whomever would benefit the most. And I think it speaks to both camps.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about intuition.
Yeah. Well, intuition is key, right? In life, it's key. And, I've been doing a lot of healing, intuitive healing, for a really long time. And what I've learned, and I can share, which is the absolute truth, is intuition is really about trust. It's really about trusting yourself and really honoring the information that you get. And when you trust, how many times have we said, oh, wow, I did blah, 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 but something told me I shouldn't have, right? So that's your intuitive voice saying, hey, wait a minute, that's really not right for you. So the more we trust our intuition, the better, because usually, and also I would add, the intuitive voice is also clear. The intuitive voice doesn't speak for, 4 hours. The intuitive voice usually gives information in small bits.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's very clear. And the more you work with it, the more you're able to really discern, what is true, the true intuitive voice, and what is just sort of like noise. Because there's a difference. There's a real difference.
Say more about that, because, so people who have a tendency to, say, worry might think that all of these worry thoughts are their intuition in overdrive.
Well, I guess that's possible, I guess it really depends on the person, but usually the worry is sort of, if you can get past and sort of clear out the worry and just sit with the worry, and actually sit down and say to yourself in, a sacred space when you're calm, not when you're driving, when you're sitting in quiet.
Don't meditate while you're driving, people.
Right. Please don't do that. But, really, you can sit with it and ask yourself, I'm worried about XYZ. I'd like some information about XYZ that would help me. That would be for my highest good. And see what kind of information you get. One of the easiest ways to develop the intuitive voice really is by keeping a dream diary and listening to your dreams and paying attention, because often that's a place where people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And, keeping a record and looking at that information. I mean, that's one way.
Yeah, I had Irvin Yalom on a month or so ago, and he was saying, he just came out with a new book. Oh, you should pick it up. I think you'd really enjoy it. It's called Creatures of a Day, and he loves the dream work, and he said that he really likes to have his clients, first thing when they wake up in the morning, write down their dream. because it quickly kind of escapes, but that there's so much. And the reason I think you'd love this book is that there are these little stories of his interactions with clients, and in each case there's a dream situation that comes to play out that's very interesting. And yeah, so he says that he likes to have his clients write it down as soon as they wake up, because then we get so involved in our day that it quickly kind of disappears, and rarely do they stay with us, at least in the kind of detail that, that we could record.
Oh, that's true. That's true. There's a whole tradition. It's called the Asclepian dream tradition, where people would go in ancient Greece when they were ill, and they would go to dream healing temples. And during this process, your dream would be interpreted by priests or priestesses of the Asclepian temples. And you would go there for healing, you would eat really good food, you would bathe in the waters. I mean, there was a whole ceremony and ritual around it.
Yeah.
And in fact, the insignia that physicians wear with the snake, with the
the staff or the rod or whatever that is.
Yes, that is the Asclepian staff, and Asclepius was considered the father of medicine for his time and the father of dream healing. So it's a very interesting and very, very powerful tradition.
Yeah, that's great. So, so listening to yourself, paying attention to what visits you while you're sleeping, right?
Yes, and you can even ask, and before you go to sleep at night, you can ask for help. You can call on your spirit guides to help you. You can ask, if you're having a difficult time, you need help. And you'd like some information in your dreams, and really, use your dreams. They're not just simply silly little fantasies that you have all the time.
It's a way to work through. It's a way to work through things. And I was thinking about the way that your book is set up. Again, that first part where every day you're reading about something, that reading that before going to sleep could really trigger some great healing dreams too.
Oh, I love that. I hadn't thought of that. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, but that could be like a nighttime read. It would be great to prescribe it that way, right?
I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot, and especially reading Joan's words.
Yeah.
And her message, the intuitive message that's in each chapter, I think would be a really nice sort of setup for that. Great idea. Thank you.
Well, great books inspire great ideas. So dreams are important. I love that you said intuition's about trust. It really is. And so often we doubt that and we don't trust ourselves, which is so interesting, right?
Yes. And, what I've learned doing this work, intuitively for quite a long time, it's not something that happens in a week.
Yeah.
Or a month, or even a year. I mean, it's an ongoing journey that you will be doing, and it's a lifelong process of wisdom. Really finding that internal wisdom and trusting it, and also, when I mentioned the noise, knowing and being able to discern what is intuitive for you, because my process might be completely different than your process. And that takes practice and intention.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking, too, for, like the worrier or the anxious person. They're going to have to get clear on what is just their cycle of worrying and what is, what's their intuition speaking to them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, as I said, even writing, I don't know if I said this, but even writing down journaling
I mean,
what you're
writing's
hearing,
so
and and trying to identify where that's coming from, or maybe drawing it, seeing what it looks like. That might be an avenue, because everybody gets, their information differently, and you're going to see things differently. So, in some of the visualizations, I think that might be a nice kind of guide and beginning exposure to, how do I work with this? Use the meditations, because they're active and they're there for you. They're there for, for healing.
Yeah.
That's what they're about. I mean, there's not a whole lot about the philosophy of it's really active based, try this.
Yeah. Tell me about how writing this book that was really inspired by a message from your mom was for you, and how present she was in this process for you.
Well, it's funny. I wrote the book very quickly after she had passed, and I whenever I write books, because I've written a number of them, I'm so in the process. It's a place I really love to be, and I don't really remember. Right, I mean, it was funny. I did a book signing the other day, and I was reading something from the book, and one of my friends was there, and she looked at me, and she said, I was laughing. You read something, and then you kind of had this smile on your face, and as if, like, oh, wow, this is really good.
Yeah.
And I laughed because
as if you're reading it for the first time.
Exactly. I did not remember writing it. And I thought, oh, my God. So I know, first of all, thank God I was, even in the presence of horrible, horrible grief, I was able to write.
Yeah.
I think that was an amazing gift. And, my mom was definitely the inspiration. Her courage was remarkable and amazing, and I really wanted to pay tribute to her. And in fact, there's a picture of my mom and myself, the last picture we ever took together. Thank you. That. And I think about her every day. Not a day goes by that I don't talk to her or consult her or, think about her.
And that's really important for people to hear that. I have a number of people in my life who have lost loved ones who they were very close to, and that that connection doesn't stop with death. And that there's, I love your book because it also, I think it communicates that. While that's not specifically what the book is about, I think that there's just this awakening and awareness and tapping into intuition and the use of meditation, that it goes beyond just our relationship with ourselves, but it can extend to people who have passed through to a different realm, whatever your beliefs are.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, the next book I'm writing is called The Eternal Bond, which is about mothers and daughters. But I'm...
Oh, that's great. Oh, I love that. Is New World going to publish that?
I don't know. I'm working on it at the moment, so we'll see.
That's so great. Oh, I'm so excited. Please stay in touch with me.
Oh, I will.
Because I have a daughter, and I feel like, definitely eternal bond.
Well, grief is a funny thing, and our culture wants everybody to move on and let go.
Yeah.
And it's time. And after losing, both my mom and my dad, I can tell you, grief is really about love. The energy is love, and that energy can never, ever, ever be severed. It just can't.
Yeah.
And anyone who tells you, no, let them go, just move on, that I don't prescribe to that. What I tell people is bring them with you.
Yeah.
Bring them along. They're not here physically, but they're, that connection is so profound that could never be lost.
Yeah.
Never. Can't be.
Yeah, that's it's beautiful and a great reminder to everyone. Well, Janet, I absolutely love your book, and it's such it's inspirational.
Well, thank you so much. I really, I'm very happy that you liked it, and I'm very proud of it.
You should be. Thank you so much for joining me again. The book is If Joan of Arc Had Cancer, Finding Courage, Faith, and Healing from History's Most Inspirational Woman Warrior by Janet Lynn Roseman, PhD. And obviously, it's available on Amazon, as is everything.
And New World has it on their website, too.
And New World Library as well, and they have other great books. And I'd love to have you back, Janet. It was such a treat chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. I would love that. Let's
speak again soon. Be well.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'll be back next week.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
I'm Chris Maurer, CNBC Business Radio. Wall Street having a rough day. The Dow's down 132 points. The Nasdaq lower by 73. The trade deficit widened more than expected to its largest gap since 2008. Shares of Salesforce.com were halted briefly this afternoon after a report Microsoft was evaluating a bid for the cloud computing company. Shares are up 2.5%. Macy's announcing it's opening up its first 4 discount stores in and around New York City this fall. Macy's Backstage is part of the retailer's restructuring plan. If the stores are successful, Macy's plans to expand them into other parts of the country. And one lucky art collector could be the new owner of a Vincent van Gogh painting. The piece was created by Van Gogh while briefly working side by side with his friend Paul Gauguin in the south of France. Sotheby's expects this evening's winning bid to go above $40 million. Chris Maurer, CNBC.
Overturned truck, freeway construction, rubberneckers slowing everything down. I travel for work. News like that used to ruin my whole day until I discovered Citrix GoToMeeting. With GoToMeeting, you can meet from anywhere using your computer, tablet, or smartphone. No expensive travel required. And with HD video, simply turn on your webcam and it's like being in the same room, which means you can stay productive no matter how bad the traffic gets.
Visit GoToMeeting.com and start our free 30-day trial.
Have you had trouble with online dating? This is eHarmony founder Dr. Neil Clark Warren. We've created a new solution, EH+. EH+ combines the personal attention of a matchmaker with eHarmony's extensive pool of great singles. EH+ gives you hand-selected matches and freedom from being online. Get started today. Call 855-930-LOVE. That's 855-930-LOVE.
Fridays just got fabulous. Don't forget to reserve a seat in the Happy Hour Lounge with Ben and Alexander every Friday at 6 p.m. on KCAA 1050 AM.
Good afternoon. It's a couple minutes after the hour. I'm Di Rice with the latest in news on KCAA 1050 AM. A fatal two-vehicle traffic collision occurred late Sunday afternoon on the southbound 15 freeway just south of Barstow Road. According to authorities, the 43-year-old